Daf Mem Amar Aleph, 9 lines from the top of the 2 dots. Amar Rava Bar Shmuel Mishum Rabbi Chia Eina B'Tzei Rashai Livsaya Ad Sheviu Melech Oy Liftan Lifnei Kol Echad V'Ech. The B'Tzei is not permitted to be B'Tzei until everybody has salt or has liftan, has relish. There's before each one, so that when they have the hamaitzi, they can eat it in the preferred manner, in the Mahudardika manner. So it should be prepared before each one. They should have prepared before each one of the participants that they have the salt, they have the liftan before each one of them, so that then when they get the hamoitzi and the lechem, they can eat it in a Mahudardika way. Rava Bar Shmuel Reish Galusa, he went to the house of Reish Galusa, Fikule Rifta, they brought before him bread, Ubatza Lahedja, and he was Baitzea right away. He did not wait for salt, and he ate it right away without the salt. Did you retract from what you said before, that it should be eaten with the salt, that's the preferred way, the Mahudardika way? He said, this bread is refined bread, it's high quality, it does not need it, it's considered Mahudar even without the salt. Tosfos, however, brings from Rabbi Menachem, that he brings based on the Medrash, that in any event we should have salt. Even bread which is considered refined, even though it's considered a mahudar, in any event we still should have the salt. He brings the Medrash that says when people are sitting and waiting, and they're waiting for everybody to wash, and they're waiting for their hamaitzi, and they're not being oisik in mitzvahs, the sultan is mekatrik. What protects them? What protects them is the bris melech. So we should always have salt and salt on the table, and we should have salt for the hamaitzi, that it is a protection for the kitrug of the sultan. Another memra that was mentioned in his name in a different, unrelated topic, Ein mei raglaim kolim ela b'yeshiva, where a person relieves himself and he urinates himself, it should be sitting down. The consideration over here, the issue is that the person should be careful that none of the drops land on his feet. They might be moisilas on him and his children. And then if a person is standing, he might be concerned for that, and he might suppress some of the flow. So therefore, he should sit down where there's not that concern about the pressure on the droplets falling on his feet. And that way he will not be concerned and not suppress the flow. But if it's soft earth, of course in those days they didn't have indoor plumbing, if it's soft earth, then he doesn't have to be worrying about the bouncing of the droplets, so then that it's not a consideration. And he doesn't have that, he stands on a high place, and he has an incline, and relieves himself on an incline, and then he's not afraid that it will reach his feet. Another member in his name, after all of your eating you should have salt, and after all what you drink you should have water. And if you do that, if you take those precautions, you will not be harmed. If you have salt after your food and water after your drink, you will not come to harm. If he ate all kinds of food, but he didn't have salt, but if he drank all kinds of, but he didn't have water, in the daytime, you should be concerned about bad breath. And at nighttime, he should be concerned for askra, an inflammation that causes choking. If he causes his food to float in water, meaning he drinks a large quantity of water after eating, so it, so to speak, floats in the water, he will not come to an intestinal disease. How much is it? A ketan, a standard size of water, for a standard size of the pas that they had, the loaf of bread. If a person has lentils once every 30 days, he protects himself from this Askara disease. But he should not have the lentils every day. My time, it's bad for bad breath. Another member that he says, if he has mustard once every 30 days, he prevents disease from his house. But he should not have the mustard every day. My time, it's bad for the heart, causes weakness of the heart. If a person is accustomed to have small fish, he is prevented from intestinal disease. He causes his whole body, it's very healthful, it causes his body to resuscitate and rejuvenate. If a person is accustomed to having fennel, he doesn't come to pains in the heart. It seems to be as harmful. It's one of the 60 signs of mavis, of death. And if a person has a gairin, a silo of this fennel of ketzach, and he sleeps onto the east side of it, he's taking his life in his hand, because the westerly wind comes and it blows the odor of the ketzach, and he smells this odor of the ketzach. Our answer is there's a difference between the smell of the ketzach and the taste of it. So the smell is harmful, but the taste is helpful. She used to bake the bread, and she used to stick to it, the ketzach, then peel it off. So the bread absorbed the taste of the ketzach, but then she peeled it off and removed it so he would not smell the odor of the ketzach. So we had in the Mishnah, we had the machlekes in our Mishnah on things that grow from the ground. The Tanakhama says, Bari Priyadam. Rabbi Yehuda says, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Bari Mine D'Shayim. On herbage, you make a more specific bracha, Bari Mine D'Shayim. There are things which are Bari Priyadama, the fruit of the ground, say like potatoes. There are D'Shayim, herbage, D'Shayim, there's seeds, where Bari Mine D'Shayim. You have to be specific. You can't have one catch-all bracha for what grows from the ground. You have to be more specific. The halach is not like Rabbi Yehuda, and of course this is that we have lamaisa or neg lamaisa on all things that grow from the ground. The bracha is Bari Priya Adama. What's his source to say that you have to specify? It has to be specific from what grows in the ground. The pasuk says, Baruch Hashem Yom Yom. So it stresses Yom Yom. It mentions it twice. So one would assume it's repeating it, which means to say you make a bracha only in the daytime. Is that true? You only make the bracha in the day and not the night? No. The double lashon of Yom Yom is not to stress that it's only the day, not the night. That's not what it means. Yom Yom, each day, every day, you have to, if there's something significant about that day. Shabbos has its special bracha. Yom Tov has its special bracha. Every day, specify it's a special day, it has a special bracha. Here also, in our context, every min you have to specify. So Rabbi Yehuda holds it's not the same bracha for the Zroim and the D'Shayim, and the Peres HaAdama are not the same bracha. You have to specify each one separately. Another member that he said, look, the meat of a Kodesh Baruch Hu, his manner is different, so different than ours. The midos basar v'dam, the human characteristic is kli rekan machzik. So in Olam Haza, in the physical world, something which is empty can contain something. If you have an empty vessel, you can fill it up. Malein machzik. If it's filled, you cannot fill it; it's already full. Aval Kodesh Baruch Hu Einu Kain, he's not like that. Malei machzik. Fill, he's machzik. Rekan einu machzik. Vayayma shenemar vayayimrim shamo tishma. The meat of Kodesh Baruch Hu is something that's full, he fills it even more. Something which is empty, he does not fill it. It says, Im shamoy tishma. Im shamoy tishma, vim lav loy tishma. If you heard, then you will hear again. If you're accustomed to listening to the mitzvahs, you learn the mitzvahs when you were young, then you will continue to learn it. The more you are accustomed to listening and following the mitzvahs, and the more you're accustomed to learn, the more you will learn. Something which is empty, it's very difficult to fill it up. Another drasha on double lashon, im shamoa b'yashon tishma b'chodesh. If you will listen to the old, meaning if you're learning and you learn and what you've already learned, you chazer it over and you'll learn it again, tishma b'chodesh, you'll find new chidushim in what you learn. But if you don't learn, if you don't chazer, you're not going to get further insights in what you have learned. Let's see the Mishnah. If on fruit from the trees you made a bracha of adoma, you're still yaitza. Now you should make, of course, bori priyes, but b'di'evid, if you made an adoma, is yaitza because we consider the fruit of the tree, it does come from the ground, it grows from the ground as well, so it's an appropriate bracha. But if it grows on the ground, if you make a bori priyes, you're not yaitza because it grew from the ground, not from the tree. In any event, in all the brachas and all the fruit, all what grows, if you said shahakol on anything, you're yaitza because a shahakol is a catch-all. Hashem created everything. So, therefore, this is also a creation of Shem. Now, of course, it's not l'chadchila, it's b'di'evid. One should specify the chazal or misakin special brachas for things that grow from the ground, grow from the tree, etc. But b'di'evid, if you said shakal, it's mantana dikra ilan ari. So the Mishnah said that if you made on fruit from the tree adama your yaitza, so who is the Tana that says that the ikar ilan is ara, even though it grew from the tree, but the fundamental growth is from the ground, and therefore, even though it grew from the tree, it's still considered growing from the ground. That's the main source of its sustenance, its growth, and therefore, if you made adama on fruit, your yaitza. Who's the Tana? Omar of Nachbar Yitzchak Rav Yehudi, the Tan is Rav Yehuda, because we learn Lagabi Bikurim, when you bring the Bikurim, you have to recite the parsha, and you praise Hashem for the land, al Adoma Asher Nasatali, for the land that you have given me. So the Tanakama holds Yovei Shamayan, if a person brought the Bikurim, and before reciting and bringing the Bikurim and reciting the parsha, the well that irrigated the land is dried up. So now, the land cannot, the source of irrigation is gone, it will not be able to produce this fruit. Or v'nixasa ilan, or he brought fruit from the tree, and prior to bringing the bikurim, the tree was cut down. So now the land can no longer produce this fruit. Maybe Venekar, the Hanakam says, maybe you bring the bikurim, but you don't recite the parsha because you cannot praise Hashem for the Adama Shana Satali, because this land no longer is capable of producing this fruit. Rabbi Yehuda maybe Vekairi says, no, you still have the land, even though you don't have the tree, even though you don't have the Mayan, the source of irrigation, but the Iker is the ground. You have the land, maybe Vekairi. So our Tana that says that Iker, Ilan, that holds that is Ara, because you can still make Adoma on fruit from the tree or Yaitza, is Rabbi Yehuda, who holds that the major source of sustenance is not the tree, it's the ground. So if you made Adoma, you Yaitza. Al Peras Haaretz, the Mishnah said, if you made on things which grow on the ground, ha'etz, you're not yaitz. Well, of course, it's not, didn't grow from a tree. How could it possibly be an appropriate bracha to make a eitz? No, the Tana has to tell me this, then, because it is a chiddush. It's going according to Rav Yehuda Damar Chita Min Ilani, who holds that the wheat stalk is called the tree. So it's a stalk that grows from the ground. We'll see shortly that it's called a tree. So you might think, therefore, other stalks that grow from the ground would also be considered a tree, and perhaps if you made a bori priya eitz, you'd be yaitza. Where do we see that he holds that the stalk of wheat is called a tree? The time we learned the Brisa, Ilan Sha'achal Men Adam Arishan. This, what Adam Arish, the fruit from the pre-eitz hadas that Adam Rishon ate, what was that? What species was that? Rabbi Meir Omer Gefenai. It was considered the grapevine. Shein l'chodavar shemevi lola Adam elayayin. Adam Rishon was cursed from eating this, and we see that what brings curse and brings wailing and crying to a person is Geffen, it's the yain, it's the wine. Shenema v'yesh min hayayin v'yishka. We see by Noach that that's what happened. So therefore, this was also a situation of Yalola, of curse, and therefore it was the Geffen. Reb Nechemia Imetani says it's the fig. Tenois Shebedovshnis Kalkalaboy Niskanu. Their downfall was with the date, they with the fig rather, and the takona, they clothe themselves with the fig leaves. So we see in the Torah that the takona was with the tahina, with the fig leaf. The kalkola, similarly, their downfall was with the fig. Shenamar Yisrael tahina, they sewed the leaves of the fig tree, they sewed it into clothing. But Rav Yehuda, so he holds, no, it was the wheat. It was a stalk of wheat. That was the tree. When does a person have das? Creates a das. When does a child first start to discern and call mother and father? Abba ima, achitem tam dogan. When he tastes from the food, from the wheat. That's when he starts to get das. So that was the pre-eitz hadas. So the stalk of wheat was called an eitz. So therefore, I might have thought that since he said that the chita is considered a tree, and therefore, if he made an eitz on it, you'd be yaitze, therefore it's teaching us that no, if he made an eitz, even on this type of a stalk, you are not yaitze. Why? Because where do we say you can make a bori priyates? That's if when you pick the fruit, the way Rashi learns, the branch is still remaining, and v'hadramapic, in the next year, fruit will grow from that same branch. So that's considered a tree. In Loshen B'nai Adam, a tree is considered where it has something which is permanent, which is from year to year, and it remains, it's perennial. A tree which has branches, fruit grow this year, fruit will grow the next year. But if you have something, even if it's growing, and even if it's tall, and even if it's high, but it doesn't have the fixed branches, the branches that fruit will grow from it the following year, it's not a perennial, it's an annual. That's not, in Loshen B'nai Adam, it's not called a tree, so therefore you cannot make a bori priya eitz. The bracha has to be an adoma. So you might have thought that in Lashon HaTorah, something which grows from the ground and it's high, like a high stalk, like in the case of the chita of Adam Arishan, the Torah calls it a tree. You might think al-gabi bracha as well. We should therefore consider it a tree, and you can make a bracha. If you made a bracha of an eitz, it'd be yaitze. Kamash Malan, in Lashon B'nai Adam, it's only a perennial. And therefore, you cannot. And therefore, we see, Lamaisa, we have certain things that even though they grow from high, tall trees, with high trunks and thick, strong trunks, that the bracha is an adama. For instance, like bananas, or like pineapple. So this is the source and the makor of it, that since they do not grow from branches that remain from year to year, they are not considered perennials, they're not considered trees, and you make an adoma.